Hi, and welcome to the 2021 Economic Depression and Preparation Channel. I'm your host, Tony. Thank you for joining me once again on this Friday, weekend edition, February 19th, 2021. Hope everyone out there has had a wonderful week. And as we get forward to the weekend, there's just two things that I want to talk to you about. But please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends, neighbors that Preach to Me is the 100% pure, unadulterated financial channel for the U.S. and abroad. Thank you very much for your support. Now, let's get right into today's topic, and that's going to be about the unlimited money printing, the stimulus packages, plural, that's going to be coming our way in spite of this. What we're going to see is this temporary hyperinflation, and then we're going to go into a massive crash and deflation. And that's pretty much the scope of things, how things are going to go. But there's some things that are going to happen in between that we're going to talk about here. So as you're out in the grocery store, as you're out in utilities, getting gas, food, water, etc. Prices have been going up across the country. The average price of gas now across the country is pushing $2.75 to $2.80 a gallon for regular, and that's going to continue to increase. Possibly this summer we could see gas as high as $3.50, $4 a gallon for regular late this summer in July and August. And that's all pending different things going on with school, kids going back to school and all this other stuff going on. The Texas thing, as you know, 14 million people in Texas are without water right now because a lot of water mains broke and froze as conditions continue to deteriorate there. So just want to switch over here and let you know that we are seeing a second Great Depression. That's what's going to happen. But before we jump into that, I want to start into some news about this economy. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen makes push for major stimulus. Now, this is beyond the $1.9 trillion that President Biden is asking for. She sees a bigger risk in not doing enough. Now, where have we heard that before? This is a quiz for you. Where have we heard that term that the risk is not doing enough? Well, your answer is simple. President Biden has said that. He said that, and his press secretary, White House press secretary Jen Psaki, has also repeated the same line, that the risk is that the package is too small and not too big, ironically. So now we have all three telling you, as of today, that they want the stimulus package to be even further. And you see, you have to remember, Janet Yellen was Treasury Secretary, President of the Fed Reserve Bank before the guy that we have now, Chairman Jerome Powell. She was one of the Federal Reserve Chairman, and now she's Treasury. So this gives them the ability to write unlimited checks now that the U.S. Treasury and the Federal Reserve Bank are, quote unquote, married to each other now, because everyone is in agreement about this stimulus. Now, this includes $1,400 checks. This is going to be the second to last check that most Americans receive in terms of a stimulus check. So my advice to you is to continue to use it to prepare, to make preparations, because they're telling you right now that yes, there's going to be unlimited stimulus, but eventually it's going to come to an end, and it's going to come to an end badly when the hyperinflation sets in, and then ultimately massive deflation sets in as nobody has any money or saving their money, and the economy just implodes altogether with prices crashing in housing, food, commercial real estate, gas, everything. And that's the ultimate goal is to just go ahead and just drop the dollar, the U.S. dollar, through first the hyperinflation, and then it's going to be a quick hyperinflation, and then bam, deflation is going to come in, everything's going to drop to negative whatever rates, negative this, negative that, prices going to fall, wages going to fall, and it's just going to be a big mess for the U.S. dollar. And that's going to spell the end of the dollar as the U.S. reserve currency. But what I find interesting is that they keep mentioning how 15 million Americans are behind on their rent, 24 million adults and 12 million children don't have enough to eat, and small business failing. Yet, ironically, the stimulus money is what's causing the stimulus money going to the wrong places is what's causing this problem here. If you look at the COVID money tracker here, I'm going to show you where the money is going to. Now, this is supposed to be the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. This is their tracker, okay? Look how much money is going into COVID so far, okay? So far, we've had $4.1 trillion just in legal fees, legislative actions on bills. The last CARES Act, do you know how many pages the last CARES Act was? It was over 1,100 pages of different little incentives for states, incentives for the congressmen, and congresswomen, money for them, money for these states, money for individuals, corporate money. And so by the time they actually got to the average individual American, all we got out of the second stimulus check, remember now, was $600. And some people didn't even get that, didn't even get the $600. I was still waiting on the $600. And so you have to remember, but look how much it costs, okay? Federal Reserve actions, $5.7 trillion and growing. This number is growing, okay? Look at where this money is being going to here. Look. $5.7 trillion was spent by the Federal Reserve and growing. This is not counting the current stimulus package, the $2 trillion. We got to add another $2 trillion stimulus, or even more, because Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, says she wants even more, believe it or not. Liquidity measures, $2.1 trillion to the banks, basically to stabilize the banks, because this is how this whole thing started. The banks were basically broke. They weren't lending to each other, so the Federal Reserve had to come in and spend $100 billion, give them between $80 to $100 billion every month to support the banks. $941 billion in loan programs. Trump administration, they spent $603 billion. The former Trump administration. So far, we've got direct payments. Only look, money sent directly to households, or helicopter money. Only, look at this here. Only 458 billion was allocated. Only 405 billion was dispersed. Okay, so only 405 billion out of what? Out of at least a $12 trillion pie here, between all these figures here, if you add it up, it's at least 15 trillion here between just the enterprise and all these other billions. Only 458 billion went to Americans as direct payments. So that's a very small piece of this pie in response to this pandemic and all of this talk that both sides have been doing, Democrats and Republicans. So who is really benefiting from all of this money that's been coming out of this thing? Well, it's the big corporations. Walmart didn't go out. They didn't shut down. Somebody let me know in the comments. Did your Super Walmart shut down during the health crisis that we got going on now? Did Amazon shut down? Did Target? Did Microsoft, Facebook, Google, Apple, you name it? Did they shut down? I don't think so. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting bamboozled. We're getting a small piece of this pie. So the next stimulus package that comes, you can see here where the majority of your money is going to be going to administrative purposes, to the banks, and to state and local funding. They got less. They only got $295 billion with state and local funding, which we know states like California are broke, Illinois, Texas is going to be broke with all this natural disasters and power outages. They got to pay for that. That's a lot of grids. They got to fix the roads. They got to fix the power system in Texas. With this deep freeze, it's going to be, and that's not counting. Remember, guys, hurricane season is coming up. It's going to be an above average season. They're heads up on that. So if you live in the Gulf Coast, if you live in the Northeast, the Gulf Coast and the Mid-Atlantic, Deep South, you get prepared for that. So that's going to cost money too. So our money's going to be here. So this is why the Second Great Depression is going to be here. There's 4 major factors on the Second Great Depression here, according to one author, Annie Laurie, the writer from The Atlantic. And so the V-shaped recovery, the K-shaped recovery, the L-shaped recovery is all out the picture. And what's going to be the 4 major factors weighing on this recovery is the household debt, fiscal debt, household and consumer debt is at an all-time high, and corporate debt's at an all-time high. And then we have the small business die-off. Yes. Over 65% of the small businesses surveyed across the country said they're not reopening, they're not coming back, even after the PPP loans that the government gives them die, either because they can't pay back the loans or because there's not enough business with operating at 25% capacity. The restaurants, bars, gyms, hotels, factories, the small dry cleaners you go to, the small, those type of stores. The state and local budget shortfall. States are broke. Counties are broke. Cities are broke. Municipalities, townships are broke. They're operating in a deficit, and this is not going to be able to continue. And the lingering health crisis. Obviously, this sickness pandemic is lasting longer than a lot of people thought. We're going in after next week, and March the 10th marks 1 year since we've been dealing with this pandemic. It's going to continue throughout the rest of the year, and this is in spite of the vaccines. Nearly 40% of low-wage workers lost their jobs in March. More than 40 million people lost their jobs in March, April, or May, which we've been telling you all along in this channel is absolutely true. This is confirmed by The Atlantic, by Bloomberg.com. So we have 40 million people still unemployed. 60% of people who have given up looking for work and they're considered long-term unemployed. And what's also interesting to note is that we have a flood of people that are doing gig economy jobs, driving for Amazon, driving for Lyft and Uber and that kind of stuff. But those jobs don't pay benefits at all. And so the money is keeping families afloat, at least for now. So take your stimulus. It's a blessing. The unemployment insurance, the extra $300 is a blessing. If you have a job, that's a blessing too, and you're getting a paycheck. Just use everything you can to put the odds in your favor. The key is to be diversified in different asset classes, whether that's having a barterability with food, water, clothes, medicines, security, using that to barter, learning to teach your neighbors or your friends different skills, and they have to pay you for it instead of trusting a mechanic or something like that when they know they're going to tear up your car, or somebody else. Learning to do those things yourself or learning to have somebody in your family or in your neighborhood that can do it is a big blessing. So because everything is headed for a cliff, and this is going to be absolutely more apparent as we go through it this summertime, because in the summertime we're going to find out all of these all these businesses that filed for bankruptcy last year. This summer is when we're going to see the effects of that in the malls, in the downtown areas of these cities, and also in the schools and other areas too. So continue to get prepared, my friends. You don't want to go into a grocery store like in Texas and see all the shelves empty and all the generators gone. Everything is gone. FEMA only sent 60 generators to Texas. That's how bad the situation was. That's what the Biden administration can only send for all those millions of people. 14 million people out of water, out of power. 4.4 million people out of power. That's down to 1 million as of right now, today, 5 o'clock Eastern time. But the 14 million people are waterless because the water main system is broken and everything, and frozen over, and pipes are broken and everything. So when you go to these grocery stores, think about that. And remember, most grocery stores only have 72 hours, 3 days worth of food to serve the 10 or 15,000 people that live in that one little community, your one little area. So that's why we say stock up on canned goods, stock up on bottled water, because you never know when it's your turn, when the power goes out for a week or two. Life really gets serious when there's no water, no power, and no food in these stores, as you saw in Texas on the news. Then that's when you know. And the same thing's gonna happen to this. Same thing gonna happen to the stock market and to the general economy on whole. First, it's gonna happen slowly, and then it's gonna be a massive problem when the banks and everything, credit dries up. And when the housing market crashes, and when credit dries up at the banks and other places, then we're going to see chaos in the streets. And that's why I say get prepared, stay prepared. So be blessed, my friends. Enjoy your weekend. I'll be back with more news later on. Thank you very much.